Welcome to Faith and Freedom. For the next few minutes, we hope to inform, inspire, and encourage you as we discuss legal victories and challenges to your fundamental freedom and religious liberties. Faith and Freedom comes to you from Liberty Counsel, a civil liberties education and legal defense organization. Join us now as Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel, explains the latest legal issues all across this country. In the courtrooms of America, Liberty Counsel is winning the battle for your constitutional freedom.
Christian owners of a New York farm are now the target of a so-called discrimination complaint because they did not want to have a same-sex ceremony. Hi, I'm Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel. Joining me is Matt Barber, vice president of Liberty Counsel Action. Matt, this is just another example of what we said years ago is coming, and now it's here. Since New York has adopted same-sex marriage, it becomes a zero-sum game. There is a winner and there's a loser. There's nothing in between. And what ultimately happens is that same-sex agendas will ultimately try to trump any kind of religious freedom to the contrary. And here you have that very thing playing out with this New York farm that's owned by Christians. They did not want to have a same-sex ceremony, and now they are the target of a discrimination complaint.
Well, it just shows you what we have been saying all along. People say, oh, hey, you know, if people are homosexual and they want to get married, that's not going to hurt you. It's not going to affect you. You know, Matt, you wrote a book, the title of which uncannily foreshadowed what we're seeing today, same-sex marriage, putting every household at risk. Here is a tangible example of a household that was placed at risk by same-sex marriage. This is a Christian couple that Robert and Cynthia Gifford, who own the Liberty Ridge Farm, no affiliation to Liberty Counsel, the Liberty Ridge Farm, a private business that they sometimes allow people to come in and have weddings on their farm. Well, a lesbian couple wanted to come in and hold their, quote, wedding. And they said, well, no, we're sorry, that violates our sincerely held Christian beliefs. They filed a complaint against them now for discrimination. And Matt, that just shows you that indeed same-sex marriage, it's not about acceptance of their lifestyle choices. What it is about compelling, forcing everybody under the iron hand of law to affirm their aberrant lifestyle choices.
Yeah, you know, what we have is these two women, Melissa and Jeannie. She actually, those two came to Liberty Ridge Farm. They wanted to have their same-sex ceremony there on the farm, and the owners of the farm said this would be violating our religious liberty and said no, they wouldn't do it. So instead of going to another place, they filed a discrimination claim against the Liberty Ridge Farm with the state entity there, claiming that they violated the state non-discrimination laws. And, you know, what we also have found is in Vermont, a neighboring state, there was a bed and breakfast there. During the time when Vermont in 2000 passed the civil union law, there was a complaint against them, family-owned Christian bed and breakfast. They have weddings in the bed and breakfast home. They did not want to have a same-sex civil union ceremony. They dodged that complaint. But then when Vermont moved from civil unions to same-sex marriage, they got sued and ultimately ended up paying $30,000, $10,000 for the fine, and $20,000 to a trust fund, because this family in Vermont did not want to have a same-sex wedding in their own bed and breakfast, which is their home. Yeah. And here you have the same thing now that's playing out. It hasn't ultimately reached its resolution, but it's the same kind of thing happening in New York that you saw happen in Vermont.
In New York, in Massachusetts, all around the country. Massachusetts, for example, the David Parker story, a man wanted to opt out his child from the comprehensive sex education that was pushing the homosexual agenda in the schools on children, reading to these kids King and King, the book, the propagandist book that seeks to teach children about the idea of same-sex marriage. David Parker said, I don't want my children involved in that. It went up through the ranks. The court ruled in Massachusetts, said, no, same-sex marriage is the law of the land. Therefore, it's part of good citizenship to have to learn that same-sex marriages are equal. So you have to learn all about the homosexual lifestyle. That's the law of the land there. So same-sex marriage is dangerous to religious freedom in that, they're saying to these, even in states like Massachusetts, you can't even opt your children out of this indoctrination.
Yeah, so in Vermont, you have to have your bed and breakfast ultimately confiscated by homosexuals to have a same-sex ceremony. In New York now, the complaint is against a farm owned by Christians. In Massachusetts, if you're there now when same-sex marriage comes in, you don't have any parental rights. You're going to have your children taught about same-sex marriage and same-sex sexual behavior which is absolutely far beyond what most people think listening to this broadcast. And then also in Massachusetts, you had the Catholic Charities. Been in the adoption business for many, many years. It's part of their religious convictions to adopt and provide that ministry to children. And when Massachusetts adopted same-sex marriage, they were told you have to adopt into households that are same-sex couples, and they said, no, that violates our religious belief. Sorry, then you have to shut down. And so they were shut down, and they no longer do adoptions in Massachusetts after doing so for many, many years.
Yeah, Matt, you mentioned in your opening monologue that this is a zero-sum game. You know who really, I think I heard first say that in the context of this was a homosexual activist by the name of Heidi Feldblum. She was President Obama's appointment to the recess appointment to the EEOC, the Equal Employment Opportunities Commission. She is drafted into the Employment Non-Discrimination Act. She has said that when our First Amendment guaranteed religious freedoms come in conflict with gay, so-called newfangled gay rights. Gays win, Christians lose. She called it a zero-sum game,
yeah, she did.
Which means somebody wins, somebody loses, and when the left is in control, as we see with the pushing of same-sex marriage, it's the Christian who always loses.
Yeah, and that's what you're seeing. That's what you saw with Chick-fil-A, a zero-sum game there, wanted to ultimately refuse his operation of his businesses simply because he believes in marriage. So everywhere you go, and that's why the book that I wrote, and this book was written a few years ago, but it's as true now as it was then, and we have it available for you on the Liberty Counsel website, lc.org, Same-Sex Marriage, Putting Every Household at Risk. The question that sometimes comes up is, why would same-sex marriage put every household at risk? How does it affect me? Mm-hmm. And even some people think, well, why does the government just stay out of this business and just allow people to do what they want to do? Because it doesn't affect me. How does it affect my marriage? Well, it certainly does affect you, and that's why the subtitle is Putting Every Household at Risk. These are illustrations, and we could go on and on about these very same situations where same-sex marriage, when you get to that point, same-sex unions, all of that homosexual agenda leading up to same-sex marriage, when you get to that point, it certainly collides and clashes with religious liberty and moral convictions to the contrary.
Same-sex marriage is being used in all of the instances and many, many more. We don't even have time to get to all of the instances where same-sex marriage from a political and legal application is being used as a weapon against free speech, against freedom of religious expression, as we see on this farm and elsewhere. And I believe that that is by design. That is the intent behind the push for so-called marriage equality, for the push for same-sex marriage. It's not that the homosexual activists want the white picket fence. As I've often said, they want to tear down the white picket fence, and the way to do that is to radically deconstruct the institution of marriage, use same-sex marriage as a weapon against religious liberty. We see that a minuscule a minority of homosexuals actually engage or enter into a so-called same-sex marriage. Tiny percentage. It is a political and legal calculus, and it's being used as a weapon to destroy religious liberty.
And in fact, on November 30, I'll be in Sacramento, California, arguing the case where we represent counselors, parents, and minors, as well as counseling organizations against the California law that says, effective January 1, 2013, you have to affirm same-sex attractions. You can't say anything to reduce or eliminate same-sex attractions among minors. So a minor can't receive that kind of counseling. A counselor can't provide it, nor can a counselor even refer to another counselor who might provide that kind of counseling. Again, a zero-sum game in California, using the law to force people to affirm same-sex attractions or homosexuality. We are going to be in court. Continue to pray for us because that is a critically important case. We'll keep you up to date as we get to that point about this case, but pray for that case in California because if we don't win, if we don't stop this, January 1, there's going to be some significant damage to some of our clients and many other minors around the country. Go to Liberty Counsel's website, lc.org. You can sign up for the Liberty Alert there. You can also get the book Same-Sex Marriage that Matt Barber is talking about, subtitle Putting Every Household at Risk. I encourage you to get that book and read it. It talks about this zero-sum game and is eye-opening as well. I also encourage you to get the book Sexual Sabotage by Dr. Judith Reisman. We have that available on the Liberty Counsel website as well. You can also visit libertycounsel.com, our new website. I would encourage you to go there. It brings together a lot of the Liberty Counsel outreaches at libertycounsel.com. Remember to pray for the ministry as well as regularly financially support Liberty Counsel. Our support is because of people like you believing in this mission and helping to stand with us to advance family and freedom.
You have been listening to Faith and Freedom with Liberty Counsel. We hope that we have motivated you to stand up for your faith, family, and freedom. We can accomplish a lot when we work together. Get informed and get involved today. Sign up for our free monthly newsletter, The Liberator. We will send it out to you free of charge. Stay informed with our Liberty Alert email updates. Just click on the website at www.lc.org or call us at 1-800-671-1776. Tune in next time to learn more about your rights right here on Faith and Freedom.